First, we'll go over how to identify some of the fish you might come across. Walleye have a large pronounced eye that reflects white light so the eye looks glossy. They have two distinct dorsal fins with distinct sharp spines that flare up. Their mouth is filled with very sharp teeth, and they are generally dark green on the back with golden brown on their sides. Sauger look very similar to walleye, and they usually have dark blotches along their sides. The key difference here is that they have irregular black markings on their fins, which are dark spots on their dorsal fin and their tail. Yellow perch also have two distinct dorsal fins, and they have a yellow body with distinct green vertical bands that are triangular shaped down the sides, and there are usually 6 to 9 bands. Lake whitefish are sometimes called a humpback fish due to having a very small head compared to their overall body size. They are very white and silver in color. They have large scales, and the key feature here is that they have a presence of an adipose fin, which is a small, fleshy, rayless fin found behind their dorsal fin. Common carp have a small mouth that protrudes with little barbels. They have a forked tail. They have one single long dorsal fin. They have large scales, and they are light gold to dark brown in color. Freshwater drum look quite different from the other fish you will encounter. They have an inferior mouth overhung by a blunt, rounded snout. They are blue or purplish silver in color, and they have a rounded tail. Goldeye have prominent eyes with bright yellow pupils. They have a blunt head and a deep compressed body, and their color is silvery or white along their sides. Northern pike are olive green in color with yellow spots or bands. Their dorsal fin is set very far back. They have a long flattened snout with very sharp teeth, and they also have a forked tail. Burbot are olive colored with dark brown markings. They have an eel-like shape and a single barbel at the tip of their chin. Their large fins are mottled with a dark border, and they are covered in heavy mucus, so when holding them, they will feel very smooth and slippery. Now we will go over how to use the microscope. First, plug in both the tablet and the microscope to an outlet. Next, turn on the main power button at the back of the microscope. Next, we'll turn on the lights. So the switch on the left allows light to come from the top of the microscope. The switch on the right allows light to come from the bottom of the microscope. You can play around with both of these and find out whichever is best for whatever you are looking at under the microscope. To turn the tablet on, press and hold the power button. Now you should be ready to use your microscope. When processing fish, there are some important parameters that you want to include and record: weight, fork length, total length, liver weight, and gonad weight, which we will go over in this video. The Health Assessment Index is the general state of the fish as observed by you, so you will externally observe the fish, look for obvious injury, and check for things like lesions, parasites, or growths. Before weighing the fish, you must zero the scale. Next, place your fish on top of the scale. Then, record in your notebook or on your data sheet what the weight of the fish was. For measuring the fork length and the total length of a fish, you will use a fish measuring board such as this one. Be sure to push the snout of the fish directly up against the side of the fish measuring board so that it is touching it. For fork length, you measure the point at which the tail forks. Again, be sure to record this value on your data sheet or in your notebook. Total length is measured at the furthest point on the caudal fin. Again, be sure to record this value. Next, we'll talk about otolith extractions, which can be used for aging fish. Otoliths are an inner ear bone that are found in fish that we can use to age the fish. We can tell the age of the fish by looking at the rings in the otolith and counting them, much like the rings of a tree. To extract the otolith, take a pair of scissors and forceps out of your dissecting kit. For this example, we are using yellow perch. So you can open up the gills and kind of take a look around there. Make your first snip at the top of the gills. You should be able to tilt the head back a bit more now. And then you will make a second snip deeper within the head. This should allow you to fully pull back the head. Now you can take your forceps and remove the otoliths. You should for sure be able to find two. They will be different sizes depending on the species of fish. And again, this is an example of extracting the otoliths from a yellow perch. You will then take a scraper or another tool from your dissecting kit and remove the excess tissue that is found on the otoliths. Next, we'll go over how to perform the crack and burn method so that you can age the otoliths by hand. So this is what your otolith kit should look like. In it, you can find a box of matches, some clay, and a tea light candle. For this example, we're going to use otoliths from a freshwater drum, which are very large, so it'll be easy to see. So first you'll light a match and light your candle. Next, you'll use a knife or a scalpel or even your fingernail to break your otolith directly in half. Now you can take half of the otolith that you've cracked with your forceps and hold it directly above the flame. You don't want to do this for too long or hold it too close to the flame, but if you just hold it directly above, you want to achieve kind of a warm brown coffee color. So this is an example of what your otolith should look like after you have burned it. It should be this color, and you definitely do not want it to be this color. This is too burnt. Now you can place your otolith that you've burned in the clay, and you're ready to put it under the dissecting microscope and take a look at it. Now you can play around with focusing your microscope. So you can use the large knob to move the microscope up and down, so move the scope closer or further away from the object you're looking at. And you can use the smaller knob to fine focus it once you have your object relatively in focus with the large knob. You can also adjust the eyepiece, so you can move these inward or outward depending on how spaced apart your eyes are. And you might find it useful to look through the eyepiece when adjusting instead of looking at the tablet. It's totally up to you. Additionally, there's this pin on the back that will allow you to let in more or less light that you will want to play around with. So this is an example of using the tablet to focus the otolith instead of looking through the eyepiece. So once you have the otolith focused, you will want to take a photo of it. So click the photo button that is on the tablet, and that will save an image. To access the photo you've taken, you can click the photo button in the bottom left corner of the tablet, and that'll show you the image that you've just collected. If you want to back up this image, you can click Export to SD card. So by burning the otolith, you've burned the protein rings that occur in the bone. This will allow you to count the rings more effectively and to properly age the fish. It is good practice to keep both the burned and the unburned halves of the otolith, as well as the other otolith. Now we'll show you how to dissect fish and what to look for. So you can start your dissection by making an incision along the underside of the fish. You want to be careful not to puncture too deep because you could puncture internal organs. Then you'll cut upwards and kind of create a flap so that it'll be easier for you to access the internal structures of the fish. In this dissection, you will be looking for two organs. You'll be looking for the gonads and the liver. So this right here is the gonads, and this is the liver. So you can start by removing the organ. So here we're removing the liver, and you want to make sure that you get as much of the organ as possible. Now you will weigh the liver. So first we'll want to zero the scale once again, and now we will tare the scale with the container that you will use to hold the liver. So after you've tared it, you can place the liver into the dish that you've tared it with, and then you will accurately get the weight of the liver. Once again, record this value in your field notebook or data sheet. Now you can remove the gonads. As you can see, this specimen is a female, as this organ is comprised of a lot of eggs. And again, you just want to make sure that you remove as much of the organ as possible. So in this case, grab as many of those eggs as you can. After you've zeroed and tared your scale again, you can weigh the gonads and record it in your notebook. Once you have the weight of the liver, you can calculate the liver somatic index, or the HSI of the fish. So this is just the weight of the liver divided by the total weight of the fish, and this ratio can provide an indication of the nutritional state of the fish, and studies have shown that HSI will decrease due to adverse changes in water quality. The gonadosomatic index, or the GSI of the fish, can be calculated by taking the weight of the gonads divided by the total weight of the fish. This is helpful for determining when sexual maturity occurs and when gametes are being developed seasonally. So an example of this is during spawning season, you might find more eggs in the fish, so your GSI would be higher.